Imagine as a 2-year-old, you are shipped across the country to go live with your biological parents for the first time. It is happening to Veronica Capi-Bianco. Now she is in Oklahoma from South Carolina.
There are tens of thousands of babies adopted in this country every year, and most of the time, when the baby leaves the birth family and goes into the arms of a loving adoptive couple, it is a smooth process. But every state has its own laws governing adoption, and one state's laws in particular are coming under fire.
An effort to soften the legislation concerning adoption in Virginia failed today. Under the approved bill, private adoption agencies could prevent an adoption because of the parent's religious beliefs or sexuality.
Adoption is defined as a legal process that creates a parent-child relation between persons not related by blood. For this project, I wanted to find out how people feel about adoption and what they think we can do to improve it. The adoption process in America must become more cohesive because the current practices and policies set in place are causing thousands of children to remain in care. Because no national organization or government branch keeps track of adoptions, national statistics on the prevalence of adoption in the United States are at best rough estimates. The most important goal of adoption, however, should be to set up a process that allows all matters of the child's adoption process to be handled quickly and in the best interest of the child. For this project, I decided to interview 3 experts in the field of adoption. Julie Ty is the president of a nonprofit organization called The Cradle. She was a former board member on the Evanson B. Donald Adoption Institute. April Dinwoody is the chief executive at the Donaldson Adoption Institute. She was adopted herself from foster care. April has become a strong advocate for better adoption practices. Steve Kalb is a social worker and camp director for Post-Adoption Services program at Holt International Adoption Agency. He was adopted from South Korea. He brings the insight on what it feels like to be adopted.
So I got involved about 9 years ago as their camp director. So we have a holdovers and adoptee camp, and so that's how I got involved. And I'm an adult adoptee. I was adopted from Korea back in 1978.
Well, I'm adopted myself. I was adopted from foster care when I was 8 months old, and I became more of an advocate and an activist in adoption about 10 years ago. Absolutely. One of the biggest problems is that every state does adoption a little bit different, so there are some federal laws, but mostly it's each state make the choice of how they want to do things. So it makes it harder for with less complicated processes. So yes, I think child welfare adoption could be more accessible and maybe a little bit easier if states would kind of come together and create some universal practices and policies that would be adhered to by states.
One of the things we can do to improve adoption in this country is make it more of a federal program. Adoption is regulated state by state, which means there are 50 different kinds of approaches and philosophies toward it. We need to have a national agenda for what good adoption practice looks like, and then we need to talk about it.
I think accessibility isn't the challenge. I think the challenge with domestic adoption is the perception and the stigma that the children are faced with. They're not. I think that there's a challenging and negative perception around children in state care and foster.
I would require that anybody who's facilitating an adoption be organized as a not-for-profit organization, that they be able to demonstrate that they exist for the purpose of serving the kids, and that they don't make any money at the effort.
But now, what we could be doing better is, there are a lot of things that we could be doing better. We could be offering more support. We could be doing we could be making more deliberate efforts at connecting adoptees and adoptive families once they're home. We could be doing more education before the child arrives. We could be doing more stringent screening of families as they apply. I think that these are all things that, in a perfect world, we'd address in a really robust way, but it's not a perfect world.
By conducting these interviews, I found out that all 50 states have their own adoption laws. The Multi-Ethnic Placement Act, which covers agencies receiving federal dollars and promotes a colorblind approach, should be amended to promote agencies to consider race and culture as one of the many factors when selecting parents for children from foster care. A complex, confusing, and conflicting system of laws and policies facilitates but also significantly impedes the formation of adoptive families. In 1980, Congress passed the Adoptive Assistance and Child Welfare Act to discourage permanent removal of children from their homes whenever possible, to reduce the number of children in foster care and the amount of time they spend there. To receive federal initiative payments, states must provide medical insurance benefits to adoptive child with special needs. States distribute federal payments to state agencies. Michigan has placed obstacles in the path of gay couples seeking to adopt. The bill, called the Kurtz Bill, would advance two bills that would allow faith-based organizations to discriminate against gay couples. The thing is, though, there's 7,000 children waiting to be adopted in Michigan. And this is the man who the bills are named after, Kenneth Kurtz. The interviews I did with these 3 adoption experts led me to new research about all 50 states having their own adoption laws, the negative stigma surrounding foster care children, and the low supply of resources currently available to adoptive parents. I have learned that adoption is not always easy. It's a complicated process, and it needs to be. But there are ways we can change it, and the people that I spoke to are foraging a new path for children in foster care and advocating new practices and policies for them. Do you have any children of your own?
I do. I have a daughter. She's about 2 years old.
Oh, she's so cute. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so that's her. That's me as a baby. And she's my only biological connection in the world.
I would like to thank Steve Kalb, Julie Ty, and April Dunwoody for participating in my project. Their efforts made me realize that adoption was much more complicated than I originally thought.